So we've hiked out into the woods as we want to start a fire. And one of the first things that I want to think about is the location. Location is critically important for being safe, not creating any unnecessary damage, and keeping it contained. So when I think about where this location is going to be, I want to keep in mind a 360-degree view. I want to be taking into consideration the ground, the things to the sides, and what's above. So when I'm looking for a location, I want to find a pocket that's free of any bushes or trees that are right up against me or the fire structure itself. I don't want to be too crowded, nor do I want to create unnecessary damage by drying out and burning plants unnecessarily so. I want to pay attention to what's above me. I want to look up and see if there are dead limbs that are dry and hanging low above the fire, or if there's any sort of snags, some dangerous, broken branches that could come tumbling down, and just generally pay attention. So, I think some framework would be maybe 5 times the height of your tallest flame. You want to make sure it's clear, but obviously ideal would be to look up and see a nice pocket of sky so that you don't have that to worry about. When looking at the ground, you want to get a sense for what the sort of substrate is and how much debris and leaf and the quality of the duff is. All of that's going to get cleared away. We're going to scrape it out and away from the fire structure and then out again further so that it's not up against it, maybe like a foot buffer or so. And we just want to make sure that we don't have anything that can easily ignite right up against that fire structure. So we clear it away. You are welcome to put in a fire ring of rocks if you'd like. That's definitely going to help the containment factor. And it also gives you some rocks to play with as far as other tools you can utilize in wilderness or survival settings, as they can be really useful. But we want to make sure that the ground is clear and that we've dug down to the soil level itself. And also what's great is that when you're done with your fire and you've made sure that it's fully out, you can ply that soil back, camouflage where you've been, and also just sort of like replenish that area that you've recently burned. So you really want to think about the home of what this fire is. It's going to make it so much more relaxing, so much more safe and enjoyable if you just pay attention to a couple of those details, and then you can get going from there. What is kind of funny to me is how it looks like we've found a really old fire pit, and the school has had a number of people who have had fires here. And this is a really beautiful spot to have a fire. We're right on the edge of this copse of hemlocks above this small creek, and so it makes a lot of sense that somebody would choose this as a location. And here we can still see the evidence of that. But wouldn't have really known prior to excavating it. So, being that a fire was here before, some of that underground material has been burnt away, and so oftentimes people consider these to be safer spots to build your fire structures. So you see a real clear line of delineation between where that fire pit was and then this beautiful, freshly not so burned soil. So here we are in Vermont, and you could say that generally we're like a large wet thicket, and therefore fire safety has some different considerations and practices, still maintaining safety being really important. But when you're in drier locations, if you're out west, the stringency is much higher when it comes to fire safety. So you really want to take into consideration where you're at and practices that are deemed appropriate to that area. So what might be reasonable here is potentially not reasonable maybe in California. So really pay attention to what that looks like and know your environment. I'm going to push things out a little bit further, but we're only going to build a small fire structure. So this cleared away area should be large enough. I'm just going to remove this outer material. We'll probably maybe burn that in the end, but looks good for a small fire pit.